I got so busy that I was dying. Like I was sick. I was like, it was just not healthy for me.
Are you ready to rise from ordinary to extraordinary? People are fed up with ordinary. Ordinary health, broke finances, crappy relationships, disconnected family, work, love, business. Help isn't coming from Wall Street, Main Street, corporate world, governments. They had their chance, and the world isn't doing much better. There are no handouts coming, except the ones you go get yourself, because you choose to go for something more. So where is help coming from? Because we believe people want more extraordinary in their life and are willing to do the work to go get it and live it. So we went on a search to find the top influencers and coaches you may or may not have heard about. Influencers and coaches on love and relationships, purpose and meaning, wealth and finances, health and fitness, business and entrepreneurship, and more. And we brought them to our vineyard, or met them around the world and asked them one question: how can you help people take their life from ordinary to extraordinary? And this is what they had to say.
Hey guys, get ready for another episode of Rise of the Visionary. And this one was a special one because we had Shaina Weisinger from Repurpose House Co. on. And man, she dropped the bombs that if you're out there building a business or a brand, she's going to make you rethink taking one piece of content and making it work harder for you instead of you working harder to produce content. So you're going to be like, what? Why didn't I know this sooner? So you better be dialed into this episode.
Exactly. She has so much personality. She is so well versed in knowing how to really truly get your content out there in bigger ways. I heard her bonus training after the episode, even though I couldn't sit in on this episode, guys. I had a little sick man. I had to take care of him. But the stuff she was dropping for our Visionary Planner students after the podcast, even on how to just really get your stuff out there in bigger ways, was amazing. So you guys are going to love this episode.
Yeah, so she dropped some of that right in this episode. So dive in, because this is going to help you grow your business and your brand right now. We'll see you inside. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Rise of the Visionary, where we are on a mission to move from ordinary to extraordinary. And today I got a special guest in the house, Shaina Weisinger of Repurpose House, but more importantly, good friend that's out here, and brought her much cooler husband out.
He is way cooler than
way
I am.
cooler. I'm like,
school,
you should lead with that more when you're like making business partnerships, getting people to sign on and whatnot. But so fun to have you out here at the Vineyard for a little podcast episode.
Yeah, thanks. I was pumped to come out. This has been awesome.
I mean, I wanted to have you out in particular because here you are, like a relatively young entrepreneur.
Young-ish. Hey.
That's doing her own thing, got her own company, crushing it out there. You were on traffic and conversion, all that. You're just blowing up, doing some amazing things out there. And I always like bringing somebody on to be like, can you share the story when we're out there? Like, it's never been more available that you can go out there and choose to go own your own business and go be an entrepreneur and be a visionary. But people are still looking for how, what, give me the signs, give me the tails, give me the thing that gives me a map to go do it. That I'm like, what made you choose not the job route, the corporate route, all that, and instead do your own thing?
Yeah, so I have a very entrepreneurial background to begin with. Like, my dad has been running his own business forever. He was in insurance for a long time, which is essentially your own business. And then he turned it into his own company. He's been doing his own thing for years and years. So for me, it was kind of a hard fit to be in corporate land, USA. I went to school for video production. So also it was one of those things where I knew I wasn't going to go and land in some big, massive company, typing data or anything fun like that. But also it was tough with video production at that point too, because it wasn't as accessible as this. I mean, you say young-ish. I'm like, I was in college before there was a video production school at ASU, and that was 17 years ago. But I knew for a fact that I wanted to do something creative. I wanted to do something for myself that I was in control of. I started a long time ago doing like game footage for lacrosse tournaments and hockey tournaments. And so I would have like 8 different videographers running around Arizona where they'd have a big conference, and they were just, filming over the glass, risking their lives and their cameras.
Okay, so you were a danger.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it. I was telling these guys, but like I had been doing it for a really long time. That was like my early mid-20s. And so, what was interesting about that is I got to a place where I really needed to grow because there was such a high demand for it. I needed to purchase a ton of equipment in order to like provide what people were asking for. And I had like a real like moment of reflection on that, because I was like, I don't know enough about business in general to just invest all of this money into something that like I kind of just did on a hunch. So I went into kind of corporate America. Like I went and worked at a high performance race car driving school. I was doing all of their video, like social media. I learned a ton about digital marketing from the marketing director there, and I got fired.
What?
Yeah, like
so I'm not the only one.
Not the only one. So, I mean, and it was funny because at one point they were like, "We think she hacked into the mainframe." I'm like, "What?" I lost my password to the computer.
I didn't know you were like.
I am hardcore. You know nothing, Vito,
like
about this scenario.
MI6 stuff underneath here.
Right. So it was fun. Like they were a lot of people. Like there was upper management that was all over the place, and a lot of people left. There was a ton of churn. And when I got let go, I was devastated because it was a job that I really, really enjoyed, but I had such a hard time finding work, full-time work anywhere. I was highly specialized. My degree was in video production with an emphasis on post-production. But I learned all this marketing stuff, which was incredible. I literally got paid to get an education in digital marketing, right? But I couldn't even get a job at the tanning salon down the street because they were like, you're overqualified.
You're overqualified.
But then I went to something that I was qualified for, and it was like this age of just, you have to apply online along with 1,000 other applicants. It was just horrible. It was a really tough time for me. And so I just started to do freelance work from like a random connection with this guy who worked at a like an incubator in Tempe. He was a coach for all of these incubees who were in this system. And I worked on like all things marketing, his branding, his like experiences, his video production, obviously. So I was doing testimonials and stuff. And from that, I just realized that there was a really big need for video production. And I was like, you know what? I don't ever want to be in a circumstance where my livelihood depends on somebody else deciding to get a wild hair to fire me. And now I can't find work ever again. So literally since that freelance gig and me being like, wow, I see a need for something that I'm experienced in, I never, ever, ever want to put my fate in somebody else's hands again.
That's it.
And be stuck like 6 months of not working. It was brutal. So then I was like, you know what? And the other cool thing was I was surrounded by all these incubees who I was like, I can do this. Like these guys, they're doing cool stuff, but it's nothing like crazy. And once I was surrounded by that mindset, I was like, if they can do it, I can totally do it. And so that was really the jump off point of like, I can do something that's not just small potatoes that can totally scale as long as I believe in it, you know?
So I like right in there is just like a lot of the pillar thoughts that have to go on. Like number one, if you're like business, see a need in the market, go solve it. You got a business there. But more importantly, I think it's that first belief. And I kind of had that same moment when I got fired from 2 jobs that were just utter like bullshit.
Right.
I'm like, I'm crushing it. It's just, I don't fit in your neat little box of what's going on.
Yeah.
But I'll always remember that feeling of somebody taking my power away. And I'm like, that feeling of somebody else controlling my income is something I don't ever want to feel again. And I'm like, that's the thing I have to figure out, how to never have that enter my life again.
Right.
And instead be like, how do I figure out to be my own business? I wasn't even thinking entrepreneur back then. I was just like, how do I own my own business type thing and whatnot. And I think that's the thing that I see a lot of through line with a lot of guests that we've had on. They just had that moment like, I don't ever want control taken from me. And that's what freedom also often feels like, that it's just another thing for like the audience. I'm like, write that down. What feeling do you not want to ever have again?
Yes.
And say, okay, if that's what I don't want, what do I got to learn? What value do I got to go build, skills, capabilities to not have that happen to me ever freaking again. It's like that defining moment.
Well, and what's so incredible about it is at the time it was brutal and painful and upsetting, and I didn't know how I was going to get myself out of it. But now in hindsight, and I'm sure you're the same way, it's the best thing that could have ever happened.
Oh yeah,
100%.
I still to this day I'm like, oh, that day that like I got fired, I walked out of that day, and I'm like, number one, I'm a business owner right away, and to this day I'm like, without that defining moment, I would still be following the normal line that everybody toes, that everybody gets into and whatnot. And I'm always just like, it was the greatest day of my freaking life. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
Wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah. So what, as you start, you had that moment where you're like, I know I want to go after this. This is what I'm going to be about now. I never want to lose control again. How did you go from there? Because what do most people get freaked out about is their confidence, their belief system, clarity of the direction of what they're going. How did you kind of get set on a vision to move forward?
Yeah, so it actually happened at the Infusionsoft conference in 2014.
Infusionsoft.
Oh, Infusionsoft. Oh, Icon. So we were there. I was there with this business coach, right? And I had already been...
I like that you got a coach.
Well, I was there with the business coach I was working for
at
that incubator. So I was there with him. We were doing this big, he had a booth there. And I was like, how do you get people excited to go to a business coach's booth? Like, what can we do to jazz this thing up? So I showed up with a camera crew, basically, completely unnecessary. We've got lights and all this chaos, but we wanted to draw attention. I made sure the booth was right next to the book signing area. So we had lights, cameras, action always there when we knew really big authors were going to be there signing. So people were looking over what's going on over there? And we would just ask them all the same recurring question, which was how do you live life daily? Or it was something to that effect. And just as I was interviewing all of these people, which are mostly business owners, they were like, wait, do you do this? Because I know we need video for our business, but it's either way too expensive or, I got a deal and I got burned because, Johnny's cousin has iMovie and, it's garbage footage now. So I was just like, okay, one thing that I can say that is of great benefit to me over the last 5-6 years is that I pull the trigger quickly. I trust my gut and I double down on an idea that I think is going to happen. And I've been wrong before, absolutely, but it has definitely helped in the right one. So at that moment, I was like, I need to create a video production company that has an ROI, that doesn't just talk about let's make one really awesome video about how great you are, because nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about you.
Right.
They care about them.
Why do you have to say that to me like that?
Vito, nobody cares. No, but it's they don't care about your business until you help them in some capacity. Get them to a place where they want to care about your business, and then you can talk about how great you are. So for me, the company needed to be more about strategy in video production and how to create, funnels and how to create content paths that lead potential clients to your business. And that was the difference between a lot of production companies in Phoenix at that time. They just made video whatever you told them to make. And me being I'm going to help you with the strategy. We're also not going to, charge $1 billion for one 2-minute video that nobody sees. Let's make it efficient. And so I doubled down on it and I started Wake Brand Media.
Man, I like it because a couple things, I'm always and if you see me, I'm writing notes because I'm oh, I like that as a takeaway. That's a great takeaway and whatnot. Because it's listening when someone's telling the story and being okay, so that moment when you're I just pulled the trigger really quick.
Yeah.
Versus I sat in contemplation and perfectionism and waiting for all the stars and all the moons to finally align, and Saturn finally entered the orbit, and you're now I'm ready to go. You're just oh, damn, I went for it.
Yeah.
And then you're I looked at what other people were doing in their business, and it was the ordinary. They're hey, here's some assets, here's some stuff, it's some video, and just pay us. And that's what a lot of business is. It's just shit ideas. It's just, and that's what most people have to tap into. And you're if I could just do it 10% better.
Right, that's it.
I'm going to freaking stand out in the freaking market and be able to get up there and freaking go and launch what you did. So I freaking love that. When you were just getting started, what was the biggest challenges that you had?
Wake was an interesting experience because it wasn't scalable. And for me, I was drowning. I grew rapidly. I was bringing on awesome clients, great brands. But the problem is I created a business based on my knowledge specifically. Yep. I'm going in there creating strategy. I'm going in there helping film and making sure that that coincides with what we've built. And there's only one of me. And so I got so busy that I was dying. Like I was sick. I was like, it was just not healthy for me. And I didn't know how to fix it to scale because I needed to find another me. And what do you go on Indeed and just make a listing for that? Like, how do you make that happen? And I had a really hard time finding a videographer who understood the marketing thing or the marketing thing that understood the videography part. So I was just, I actually, there was a turning point for me. I went to the Philippines with one of my clients. He owns a graphic design company called Design Pickle. And he sat me down. He had scaled like crazy in the first like year and a half of his business. And he sat me down at coffee one time and he was like, this isn't scalable what you're doing. And I was like, I know, because I'm ready to have a meltdown. And he was like, you need to find something because you can do anything you want and you have this skill set. And that was seeing what he had created and how fast it scaled. And he wasn't, having a full-fledged heart attack and meltdown all at the same time was inspiring. And I'm like, there's something that I have to do that is bigger than this, that does not require me every minute. And that's when the journey to figure out what that was going to be kind of started.
Actually, talk through that a little bit right there, because that's where so many service-based people and even small business get into. They build it. It's around them and their craft, which is great.
Yeah.
But now today in the world where you're also trying to have lifestyle and freedom and be like, I still take care of myself. I'm with my family.
Yeah.
I actually know my kids. I've actually got a great relation with my spouse. If we don't build scale, you're stuck in the business. Even in the online world, sometimes I'm like, dude, I baked myself from an offline business that I was trapped in into an online business that I was trapped in until I figured out scale, curriculum, different things like that.
Right.
How did you start figuring it out? I'm always interested to see how the journey came.
Yeah. So one piece of advice he gave me that was really important was if you're doing a service-based anything, do not do the work yourself because you will be the stopping point for any kind of scale. Yeah. And he was like, if it's something that you can train other people to do, or it's something that's not in your expertise, but you can build the systems and the processes to make that grow, then you're golden. But don't you dare start doing it yourself because you'll get stuck in it. And so that thought was in my head as I was kind of coming up with what it could be. And the first thing that I decided to like dial in on was I created a company called Video Podcast Producers. Doing this is all I did for clients, because I had these video production clients that I had consistently been preaching, like, you need value-based content. And the fastest way to do that at scale is to do a long form video podcast episode, like sit down once a month and crank out 4 of them. And then we chop it up into a million little pieces and we distribute it all over social, and then you turn it into your blog and you do all this craziness. So I started that with a friend of mine, and I was like, as I was pitching it to like other audio podcasters, not just like they didn't do video, they were like, well, we don't care about the video part, but if you just chopped our stuff up into a million little pieces, we would throw our money at you. I heard it from so many people.
You were like, ding.
Right. And I was like, there's not a service that does this. And as I was researching it, there wasn't a service that had done, like, there were agencies that packaged it as a part of like a larger, $1,000 to $2,000 monthly deal that they did. They manage other things too. Or there were services that you do it yourself, which is a pain in the ass. Like, it takes forever to do it yourself. It's not rocket science. But as I researched,
but just no busy person,
right,
that's trying to go out and do scales. Like, I feel like editing video.
I feel like going through captions all day long.
Right.
No, like,
let
nobody
alone
wants
just
to do
like
that.
The people that are prolific in it. You're just like, I literally forgot how much shit I made.
Yeah.
And it's collecting dust. It's not freaking doing anything. When you're like, I don't have to work as hard if I have this stuff working out for me. And it's the age of automation.
Right.
We don't have to be like, I must go load. I must go do this and that. So I love what you're doing with the fact that, like, you're helping people solve 2 of the biggest problems. Time that's out there, and you're working hard, but you're not seeing the payoff.
Right.
Because working hard does not equate to success.
Right.
And that I learned from my dad, who worked from sun up until sundown, but never learned how to make more than $75,000 a year. And it's not that it's not a good work ethic and things like that, but leverage is a completely different proposition than I must simply grind and hustle and work hard like that. So talk a little bit about what you're doing with Repurpose House and solving that.
Yeah. So, well, ultimately, the whole like double down and make snap decisions quickly worked out against me in this circumstance, because I actually started it as podcast memes. So I literally only catered to podcasters. And as we were trying to sell it, like some people were like, take our money, you're undercharging. And the vast majority were like, it's too expensive at like $200 a month. So we were like, what's the difference here? Like there's a stark difference. And we realized that, and when I say we, it's Sarah, my director of ops, and I, that the ones who were doubling down on it were digital marketers. And they understood the value of content and how to chop it up. And they were using podcasting as like one arm. So I had like done this whole, like, I made the website, I did all the branding, we had gone to conferences, we had like completely just like vomited everywhere podcast memes. And now I'm like, oh my God, we have to change the brand. So then it was.
But it was impossible to do that, wasn't it? It was impossible to go back and change the brand.
Well, I had to restart a whole new company.
Yeah.
Because we had to change all of it.
Yeah, I'm totally joking. And this because some people will be like, I went in one direction and then I recognize it's the wrong direction. But the pivot freaks them out.
It scares
and
people.
You're like,
it does. I got so much flack for it. I had multiple people who I had been in business with before or who had encouraged me to be an entrepreneur or like do other things. Be like, if you don't just stick to one idea, maybe you're not meant to be an entrepreneur. But then they tried to get me to work for them instead.
Right,
as an employee. I was like,
oh, let me squash your mindset so that I can try to be like, this is where you should be.
Yeah. And it was funny because they'd be like, oh, what's the business name now? Because it was video podcast producers, but that segued into, oh, there's a bigger thing that can scale. And then it was podcast memes. And then I was like, no, this isn't working. I know I'm close, right? Mm-hmm. I know that I'm really, really like almost there. And then by the third pivot, like I just had to like block out other people's opinions.
The naysayers.
Because
and
so
the
many people were just so awful about it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Anybody who has a successful business landed on it on the first try.
Right.
I mean.
And that's the myth. That's the myth. You're like,
right.
Today, the pivot's never been easier.
Yeah.
And the ability to rebrand and stuff like that. Like nowadays, you don't even have to call a graphic designer or anything. You're just like, did it myself, click, changed, add, put.
Right.
This. And it's just, the market can't remember. The market doesn't know. That's our own thoughts that they're like, market's just paying attention to you, just paying attention to you.
Remember, nobody cares.
None.
So it's like, it was just, and the pivot happened fast because we were both like, we know what's wrong. And then Sarah and I both come from marketing backgrounds. So we were like, well, we know this field. Like we can do this. But then I was
one of the most impressive things that I keep hearing that you're saying though is like, you always listen to the market and you always are just like, hey, when these people are saying, we'll throw money at you and this and that for that, you're like, okay, a clue to success. I will freaking follow and whatnot.
Right.
And then because I remember when I got fired for this one job, it was for the exact reason. I'm like, I'm listening to the people. And the people are saying, we rather have it this way. And when I make those changes, but it's not within the corporate dogma of how it's supposed to be, you're an outlier.
Yeah.
And the system does not like outliers.
Which is so ridiculous because the vast majority of those businesses started because of an idea that didn't exist.
Correct.
But let's just double down on the same thing over and over again. It's ridiculous.
How did you deal, because a lot of people that might be listening to the show and they're new to entrepreneurialism or they're shifting from an offline to more of an online or scalable business. Like, when you do have the doubters and the naysayers, how did you armor yourself for that?
It was I had to kind of back away from social for a little bit just because like you have all
people are mean on social.
What? The internet? Only because like you're already in a place where you're getting attacks from people who you even are surprised by. And that may or may not be the case for you. But then to also go online and see all of these people crushing it 24/7 with whatever the heck they're doing, it was just too much. And I kind of had to become a little bit of a recluse and just dial in and really trust myself and shut it off, It did help that I had like Sarah there with me because she got it and we were both like, oh, this could definitely be something. But, for me, I still had to take a risk there because I was like, we're going to invest this time and this energy into now doing this all over again, like building websites and creating new assets. I mean, it takes a while.
Yeah.
So we took, a month and a half to 2 months of just rebuilding everything. Obviously it worked, but I was nervous that it wasn't going to. So I wanted to test the market like at scale this time around because I was at the point where I was like, if this doesn't work, I may go take a job at like Design Pickle because Russ had offered it to me. I was like, I had something to fall back on. I wasn't thrilled about it. I had not like scratched the itch yet to like really create something that was mine. But I was like, I need to know, and I need to know quickly. So I foot the bill to get a booth at Traffic and Conversion that year. I mean, I'm like, that's the audience, and they're either going to love it or they're going to tell me it sucks. And then I'm going to know exactly what to do here, but I'm not going to waste another year hoping and trying to like push it to market. They're all right in front of me. So it's worth the thousands of dollars to just find out and not waste even more, you know? And it was the best thing that I ever could have done. It was crazy town there.
I mean, that's like, it's funny. I was working on just like, I was sharing decade it took to build this dream that we have here with the vineyard and all that stuff. And I was just writing myself to notes. I'm like, what did I think or do over those 10 years? And one of them was this line where I'm like, I was willing to take bigger risks.
Yeah.
Like when I rolled, like I remember I always called it like the first time I joined a mastermind that was like $14,000. And I'm like, I don't legitimately fucking have this, but I'm just like, I'm going to figure this out because I'm like, in taking that bigger risk, we define who we are. We start chipping away like freaking artwork on ourselves where you're like, that little chisel just gave me a new part of who I am. And that will define how I begin to act and how I begin to behave. And those are the things I'm always just like, I watch for successful people. I'm like, that's where they took the risk. That's another risk that they take. So the more we are willing to take risk and trust in our ability to go figure it out, the better we equip ourselves with the capabilities to go do this stuff, which is what's out there. But also I heard you say, I didn't wait for it to be perfect.
Right.
I just got out there. So perfectionism, non-perfectionism, what way should we be leaning towards here?
You know what's funny is Sarah and I fight about that a lot because I'm the kind of person who I want to know a process works from A to Z, clean and really nice before I will then offer it out. Like I don't show art in the middle of, you know, the painting, right? But she's on the opposite end. So we have gone, you know, cuff to cuff on a couple of different things. One of them was like our elevated service where we like curate and do all this stuff for you. People asked for it and we knew we wanted it, but I'm like, I need a system that is clean and perfect so that the first person who signs up for it has the best, most perfect experience. And she was like, how about we just offer on the website first? And then when somebody buys it, we'll figure it out because we're good at that. I'm like, and I'm sweating, having a panic attack when we hit like the publish button. But she was right because it's like, okay, people are asking for it, but are they actually going to purchase it? And is it worth my time to create this whole thing that may or may not matter?
100%.
And I mean, people wanted it, but ultimately we figured it out because that's what we do. And it's not rocket science. Like,
I mean, also if you look at some of the best companies in the world, like we call it focus group testing and co-creating with our person, where you're like minimal, viable product to prove it sells. Then co-create with people so that we could be like, now we'll work out the kinks. Because early adopters aren't like, if early adopters wasn't a thing, there'd be no iPhone. Right. Because when the first thing came out, people were like, this shit don't work, this glitch here, that glitch there. But we loved the idea of what it could be able to do down the road, what it meant for us. And I think about that even with your service, because obviously like we work with you guys. And I'm like, this new thing, I'm like, I don't exactly know everything it does yet.
Yeah.
But I just saw a thread with our people that are like, okay, so we'll fix this and fix that. And my people are giving feedback. And your girl's like, okay, I'm on that. I can make that adjustment and change. And we're like, that's cool. If you had waited for it to be perfect, I'd be like, I wouldn't know about it.
Right.
And you wouldn't be getting the feedback to really hone the thing. Because in the vacuum of your head, you think it's going to look like this. Then you put it into people's hands and we break shit.
Yep.
We break stuff. That I think that, especially for where you're at, like that's been helpful for us that you didn't make it perfect because we don't even know what we want of it yet.
Yeah.
And we're figuring it out kind of with you.
Yeah.
And it makes us be like, I back these fuckers because they're doing that with us. And they're like, no, that's not possible. No.
You can't say that. I mean, and don't get me wrong. There are times to put your foot down when clients are ridiculous.
Correct. I'm not where you're like, I'm getting walked all over here.
But ultimately, it's like the clients are the ones who are going to give you the most valuable information. I can think I want it to work one way all day long, but ultimately, like we have to bend and adjust and make sure that, especially with creative stuff, like Every creative has their own idea on how something's supposed to look, feel, like read, And for us, it's like, okay, well, we know the stats and the best practices. Yeah. However, we need to utilize, those are non-negotiables because there's data to back it up. So we will create stuff that is specific to that. The creative part of it, we can bend a little bit. That's no problem because we have to. But what's one thing that I made sure that we did, especially when we were rolling out new stuff, is the first early adopters of that, we would tell them, hey, this is new. We want to build this so awesome, and we want you to give us as much feedback as you can because we're still evolving this process. And initially, that's really scary to do because you're like, oh, I don't want to admit that we're not, 15,000 clients deep and just on autopilot because it's a little scary, but people appreciated that and they had no problem giving feedback. And ultimately, sometimes I'd be like, hey, we'll throw you a 20% discount because we know that, you're client 3 on this little program. We want your feedback. And everybody was happy to give it.
I mean, that's the thing. We have in our heads, we fear that the person will not accept that, but you're like, be transparent, be authentic, be raw. Because number one, in those big corporations, there is none of that. You're a distant number in some line. That it's refreshing today with the number of people that can be young companies with hunger still in their belly, wanting to go out there. And you're like, I'd much rather work with them because they're adaptive. They're being visionary about what they're doing. Their communication is better than just I'm in the ticket line. Right. Not that we don't do that, but you're still it's that's why I just think there's so much opportunity for anybody that is just I got a vision and I got a mission.
Yeah.
Now, how the hell do I just go get it out there? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
I do. One thing I will say, I know we were talking about, it doesn't have to be perfect before you launch, but also make sure that it works in some capacity because we just literally right now are dealing with a company that they sent out this email. I know the guy and he was like, we have this new service that we're launching. Pull the trigger, we'll do intro pricing or whatever. So we did. It was really appealing for us because it was exactly what we needed for our sales and marketing, and just non-delivering, just broken every promise. Nothing's hit deadline. The actual deliverables were not at all what we were promised. And that to me, I was willing to bend a little because I was like, I know you guys are just figuring this thing out, but it was just so broken and they weren't communicating. And I was just like, you guys need to really sit down and lock this thing in before you present it to anybody else because I can't in good faith, recommend this. In fact, I would warn people against it at this point. So handle it.
It's so crazy to think that people don't understand where we are as an economy, let alone a society, media, that you're you realize anybody, all you have to do is go on social and just be was working with so-and-so and this and that and be I'll fuck you forever.
Right.
That you're just have the minimal standards of just keep your promises.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, I'm not the person who's going to do that, but thank God it was me and not somebody else who would.
Correct. That's what I mean. That's my point about being you were being awesome about it. You can get the douchebag out there that will just go on a rant that you can't risk putting that kind of a product out there in the way media is today.
Right.
Instead, it should be do the due diligence to make sure I'm doing the best thing I can, enough to get it out where I'm I've done my research, I've done the stuff, I've become an expert, whatever the thing is. You're very data driven because your business is driven by that way. But you're no, your shit works. It doesn't have to be perfect, but no, it works, because the minute you can't deliver on that result or keep that promise, you'll churn through because that person will be I'll never do business with you again.
Right. And then they're going to tell everybody else not to do business, whether it's behind closed doors or on social.
Right.
One of our core values is own up. And it's we've made mistakes. We didn't come to market and everything was perfect. But when we do make mistakes, we triple deliver on any way that we can make that better because you have to know that it's going to happen. I think in any business, you're going to trip and fall and 100%. Do some stupid stuff.
You can't live in that fear, I will not screw up or whatnot. Instead, I really like that core value, own up.
Yeah.
I'm going to I might steal that a little bit and be Mike, I like the way she said it. Own up.
Own up.
That's a good one and whatnot. So you came through. So I want to jump a little bit to what your brand is doing and how you're thinking through it. Because here we are with a lot of people that are starting to build their brands or they're in the mix of it, but they're really struggling with how do I get my message out in a bigger way? And they're really just getting into almost the grind of it. And I'm man, there is no ROI on just grinding. You got to start thinking about this leverage. You got to break out of time. And what we were kind of saying before, you don't got to work as hard today. I'm not saying, make sure I'm phrasing that right. It's not that you don't work hard, but it's not the idea that like, I must grind through this. This must be grueling. Instead, you just got to be a little bit smarter about what you're doing. So let's talk about that. Like what you're doing with them and how you help them break through that. In particular, if we think about, okay, you know that content and adding value is what attracts people to you. So here you are, and you're like, okay, that's the premise.
Yeah.
You have that. Now let's start doing it smart instead of just like, I just throw something up on Facebook.
Yeah.
I just throw something on IG. Talk through, so any young entrepreneur, and I don't mean young as in age, I mean young as in business, can think smarter about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, it's about creating longer form content that speaks to your brand and utilizing that and getting as much mileage out of it as you can across every medium for content. And that doesn't just stop at repurposing it for social, which is what we do, but like you can take a long form video like this, you can turn it into a blog post, you can chop it up into a million pieces and put it on social media, you make it an audio podcast only, make it a LinkedIn article with links to the content. Like there's so many things that you can do with one piece of content that it's silly to literally chase a piece of content every single day and creating it to put on social when you've already made the longer stuff. I mean, even like webinars, trainings, speaking gigs, like literally anything you've already done, just use that. I mean, and you still need to create, but create with intention and not just to post online.
Ooh, right there is something, because I'm like, one, I love that you're teaching people long form content, because everyone thinks I got to do 1 to 2 minute, 3 minute. And I'm like, that's if you want like an ADD customer that can't freaking has no attention, no follow through, no conviction about what they're doing. By all means, have that. But otherwise, long form, so you have the ability to train, coach, teach, add the value. And you're saying, take that because it's an asset. And let's make that asset work, where just content on social media is like disposable, gone. It rots on the freaking vine, if you will.
Right.
That. How do you help them think about, well, what kind of content should I be putting out there? So let's think strategically.
Yeah. So this kind of stuff is great. Trainings are great because you're speaking to something if you're going to talk for an hour about something, you're probably pretty passionate about it. And I'm going to hope it has something to do with what you do in business, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
that's a first hint.
Here's
train on stuff that is going to leverage your business and point people to it.
Yeah. And it's like, and talk about things that your audience cares about. Like what my audience doesn't just care about that one little social media snippet. They care about a lot of things, content related, marketing related. You can literally speak to anything that your audience can be helped by that still in some way, shape, or form funnels back to you or your business, right? But then taking that longer form piece of content, and like this, for instance, we've been talking for 30 minutes, maybe
roughly
3 hours. I don't know. At this point in time is
most
nothing
people,
anymore.
30 minutes with me, they're like, that feels like 3 hours.
But like ultimately, between the two of us, I'm hoping we said a handful of cool things that were under 2 minutes, right? And we can take let's say we found 5. I mean, I'm sure it's more, but take 5 of them, take 2-minute clips of them, put them on IGTV, Facebook, Instagram, feeds, LinkedIn, YouTube. That's the one that people overlook all the time. And I can't
ridiculous.
understand that. It is owned by Google. It is the second largest search engine on the web. Why is every single thing you do not on YouTube? Yep. People will do Facebook Lives and it never sees YouTube. I'm not in Facebook like Googling something. Like if I have something that's very pointed that I want to learn about,
you go to YouTube.
Right. And so why aren't you there telling people your expertise if they're asking for that? So, I mean, just making sure you're taking that one piece of content, take as much of it apart, and then post it literally everywhere. And doesn't even like limit to video. You can take them and do like little image quote cards, stats even. Let's say you have a blog post that's super stat heavy. Make a ton of stat cards on that are branded, that look cool, that lead them back to the original piece of content where hopefully you have a lead magnet or something that you're generating leads, Yeah. It's just, there's so many strategic ways to do it. That's not just throwing content out there to just build brand awareness. That's still a great thing. But ultimately you should be out there giving so much value that they want to like go somewhere to learn more and let them know where that place is.
So what's like, because then they're like, yeah, but do I have to do this all myself?
Right.
What goes on? And that gets where the fear of time. I don't have
Yes.
the time. I don't have the time to do all that. And you're like, there's this thing called automation today.
Yes. Yeah, it's cool. So there's one of our clients, I had an awesome time chatting with him. He walked me through his automation and it's crazy. So he's really good live. His like version of this is he goes on Facebook Live, I think like once a day. He just goes up to the roof of his building. He just selfie styles it. He bangs out 5 minutes and then it like he downloads it. It triggers all of these zaps and it goes to his Google Drive folder. It alerts his VA. His VA then sends it to repurpose house to send it through. And then it auto uploads to YouTube or some craziness. Like my mind exploded when I heard how his system works. Actually, I'm going to interview him on our new show because I was like,
what?
dude, this is crazy.
Let me know about that.
I will,
I mean,
sure.
we're decently automated, but not where it's just drop into this, that. Like
It was
our video guy like loses some clips sometimes.
Sorry, Zach. But no, it's just like and also this is the age of productized service.
Yep.
So you don't have to have a full-fledged agency charging you $4,000 a month to manage your thing. Like pick something that is super helpful to you. And I can guarantee you there's probably a productized service out there that manages it at a much steeper discount. And it's just get it off your plate.
I mean, that's the biggest thing I was shocked about where you guys were in the market. I'm like, oh man, this is like just killer deal. Because you think, frick, is this going to be like agency level type shit and whatnot? And it's nowhere near that I'm like, oh my God, all of our students and all of our visionaries are going to be able to use this because it's perfect for the get started as well as the like, you got a crank in business. You just don't need an agency.
Right. It's a plug and play. You can create your own agency by plugging and playing the things that really matter to your business. Mm-hmm. So like for us, like another cool productized service is called Content Cucumber. And what they do is they write Content Cucumber.
So one was a pickle, now a
One's
cucumber.
Design Pickle, Content Cucumber. They're friends. We're all friendly with each other. But no, what they do is it's any type of written content that you need. So like newsletters, blog posts, email blasts, things like that. But what we use them for pretty consistently is to create blog posts out of videos that I make. So if I'm talking about like some really cool thing in the market with, I don't know, like video testimonials, they will take that video, they will create a blog post, keyword it, do research, link out to different things, and it's done.
That's a new part of your guys doing that?
So we use them for a couple of different things, but it's like I made the content one time. Now I don't want to sit down and write the blog post about what I just sat in front of a camera talking about. But I also need somebody to deal with it who understands how to write a blog post that will generate views, right? And actually, so we just send it to them.
Blog posts, like I always do them.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense of like we're committed to building content that way.
Right.
I think the debate a lot of people have out there is like, do blog posts still work?
They do for SEO.
Yeah,
you have to. Like it's the same thing.
I just want
Google
somebody else
thing.
to say it, so it doesn't sound like it's just me.
No.
I'm like, stop! Don't believe the hype that blog posts ain't working.
No, it's a necessary evil, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And if you're keywording properly and you're hyper specific on what your SEO needs to look like it can do really, really great things for you. Like there's one blog post that we ended up being a guest blog on when we were podcast memes. And so much of our traffic comes from that one blog post from another company that links out to us. Mm-hmm. That blog post generated a lot of business for us, and it still does.
I was saying it's working around the clock.
And that's been a year and a half. Like since that blog post was live. And I look at our analytics and we have stuff coming from that old podcast memes website because it redirects constantly. Mm-hmm. So blogs work for sure.
Yeah. What any other like things like that when it comes to content strategy, things like that? If you were to give your top 1, 2, 3 like best tips right now to be like, this is how you have to think about what you're putting out today. Yeah. Not just like being like, hey, put it here. Because that's what everyone's looking at, the tactic. But you're way more strategic and thoughtful than that. They'd be like, what are you thinking about right now when it comes to content out there?
I think that a lot of people don't realize what they're sitting on already. So they're worried about creating the next thing and the next thing, and the next thing. And that's all great, but you have hopefully made a bunch of content already that you don't even realize is going to work for social, like blog posts. Mm-hmm. So like that's why we'll take blog posts and turn them into text motion videos because video gets shared 1,200% more than text and images combined. Mm-hmm. So how do we make a text blog post that Facebook doesn't even want to send anybody to because Facebook wants to send people to Facebook, right?
Yep.
Just posting the link is a problem. Like, how do we make that piece of content that's already somebody spent time, possibly money creating to make it work for social media. And there's ways around it to turn those like small snippets of it into video and then have a call to action that sends them there. So it's like, look at all of the content that you've created, things that you don't even realize can be socially shared, like blog posts, like webinars, like trainings, like anything.
Yep.
And just start taking inventory and be like, wow, I did say, if it's a training, I hope you said a couple of 2-minute cool things, okay, I said something really cool here. I can take that tiny snippet and make it a preview to the course. And I can chop that up into a bunch of different pieces. And now it's like, hey, do you want the full course or the full training? Like these are just the pieces, the nuggets that you're going to get out of it. So the number one thing is looking at your library with an open mind and being like, there's stuff here. I made it for a reason, right? The other thing is if you haven't made that library, that's fine. If you're starting a new business, if you're talking to a new audience, that's totally cool. The first things you need to start doing are thinking about what are the things that you say over and over and over and over and over and over again to prospective clients, to your current clients. Write it all down. Like I will be in my car and I'll be like, hey Siri, make a note of whatever, because I'll be thinking about, oh man, this would be a great topic. Or I'll get off the phone with somebody and they'll have asked a question that I haven't filmed a video about. Just that's all the stuff right there. Just the stuff you say all the time. When people ask you questions, make a video out of that, because clearly they're not the only one looking for that answer. So you can create a whole well of content. You can sit in front of a camera and have 5 different shirts, your phone even, and just bang it all out while you're sitting there instead of having to do it every single day. I mean, for somebody like that one client, it just works with his daily thing. It's a part of his deal. But I don't want to sit down and do content every single day. Like I don't want to put makeup on that often. You know what I mean? My hair is a hot mess 24/7 except today. So it's like, just sit down, have your running list. Just know that every like other Monday or whatever, you sit in front of your phone and just crank it out. You know what your topics are. You should be able to speak to them fluidly. Mm-hmm. And now you have a well of stuff that you can then start putting in all the places that start sending it to, Content Cucumber. They can write your blog posts out of it, put it all on YouTube, have it all chopped up into a bunch of little pieces and then send them to the long form. Embed the YouTube piece onto your blog for SEO, and then send them there. It's just all you're doing is talking about stuff that you already know.
Do you guys map that that whole thing out for people where you're like, hey, let's kind of show you the spider web of how this thing works? Because even just you're saying it like, put it there, put it there, put it there. A person's like, oh, for fuck's sake, where does it all go? But you're like, it sounds harder than it really does. Is.
Yeah. So we're creating a course that literally walks you A to Z on here's where you start with creating, like if you haven't done anything yet, you don't have a well, this is what you can start with that's really impactful. And then there are other things that you can dive into that are more episodic like this, and then all the way up to, okay, now how are we going to strategically drop it onto social and all the different platforms? So it's A to Z and where it all needs to live. It's basically taking the Gary V's content model, he talks about his pillar content and how to bust it apart. It's the same thing. It's not rocket science. It's just breaking it down and knowing. I created a spreadsheet, a Google sheet that I was sharing with a handful of clients who really do this well. And it's because we give 9 assets. That's a lot to manage, especially if you're doing it daily. So keeping track of it can become overwhelming. So it's a spreadsheet that it's okay, this one video meme is going to, the square version is going to be on LinkedIn on Monday, Instagram feed Tuesday, Facebook feed Wednesday. We're going to drop it in our LinkedIn groups on Thursday, Friday. That same piece of content, where it's going to land every day, and you can just check it off as you go, because otherwise it's it can be overwhelming quickly.
It can blow you out. But that's key, because I think if a person can see better or simplify where everything goes and understand how these assets are working, they're more willing to do it as compared to they're just I don't even know what this is. So fuck that.
Well, we have one client who we did a case study with. They use HubSpot and they track everything. So we were able to see everything that happened with their content. They literally took 1 2-minute clip out of a weekly show that they do that is gated. You have to opt into this piece of content. And they took the 1 2-minute clip, we turned it into 6 assets. So 3 videos in the 3 different sizes, and then just image quotes, something cool somebody said on the episode. And they strategically put just that one clip on all the different social media channels every week. They didn't turn it into 84 different clips, just one. And they got 300% more opt-ins in 90 days.
Damn,
consistently. 138% increase in site visits. Just doing one piece of content repurposed every single week. And there's we have a downloadable sheet where you can see exactly what their strategy was, and they tell you their groups and how they posted.
Right on.
But that's it. It's just a 2-minute clip. Yep. And they got so much mileage out of it.
Just imagine that done consistently over time. how that starts to compound your business.
That's right. Yeah. And after 90 days, they were seeing results. It was just every episode, they took 1 2-minute thing. That was it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to see if we can share that.
Yeah, for sure.
And drop that in there.
Yeah.
That'd be freaking badass. So what's coming up like for you guys now? Because right there, I'm like, that's how you take ordinary content and make it extraordinary. I wasn't even looking at that as like, God, look how that ties into the theme of the show.
Look at that.
I'm like, ordinary content into extraordinary content.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else is coming up for you guys?
So it's, again, just the same thing, like listening to what people want. So we have certain clients who would be amazing clients, but they're just like, we don't want to film ourselves all the time, right? Like people just want it done. So we're going to start doing events where people come in for 2 days. We shoot everything. We throw it through the Repurpose House system. We actually give them a 3-month subscription to Buffer or whatever the posting platform is going to be. We have it curated and done, and it's literally scheduled on all of their channels for 3 months. So
that's killer.
We just manage it. They come, they shoot, we do strategy, we talk about messaging, do like all the workshop stuff, and then we don't have to see them again for 3 months, and they don't have to think about it for 3 months, because we have a lot of people who are on that elite side who are just like, we don't want to be in the system. We just want you to deal with it.
Yeah.
And in order for us to deal with it, I need to see you. My video production background is going, okay, I need to see you and put you on camera for a little bit. We could front load all of it and then go live your life,
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of an idea of I mean, you're replicating like what we do at Vision in the Vineyards,
Right,
where I'm like, there are people that are just like, I want speed and access now. So how do I get that? And then when you can put them in an experience where you're like, dude, you're going to roll in and the makeup person will be there, and then you're going to hit that station, you're going to rock over there, and then this person's doing that. It feels like a show for them. And they're like, sweet, I want to come in, get that done. I could schedule that 2-3 times a year. I'm out into the system, because today people are also looking for something that has an experience or gives them the faster path. And you got the people that are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And if you can put that into your business model, that's like alchemy in your business.
Yeah.
That's changing the potion of it, where you're like everyone got so sold on the volume game, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, what life do you also want? Because you can be like, I want this 100 amazing people I want to work with.
Yeah.
And go depth of impact, not just width of impact. And I just love hearing that you're thinking that way and that you're doing that with your model, because I think that's going to be the future of where a lot of visionaries are going, that want to do it on their terms.
Right, exactly.
And not just feel like I got to be in the like info product game or the subscription game. They're like, I could be in the experiential game as well. So it's going to be fun to see. When are you launching that bad boy?
So our goal is to have all of the details kind of ironed out by the end of February. And we are hosting a mastermind evening at TNC this year. And we're going to present it to that group first. It's the right group. They're already paying to stay in these mansions for 4 days for an experience, right?
Yep.
They're all marketing related because they're there for TNC. So we're going to talk about
the power
it
of just knowing your audience.
Yeah.
And knowing exactly who you want, and put your ass there and get in front of them and have the thing. That's when you and your husband are going to be back in town, right?
Yeah.
That's
We'll be in San Diego.
Because I want to get you both on as like a,
because
as
he's
a couple.
cooler.
Number
remember?
one, yeah, I was like, I'm trying.
He's so much cooler than me.
Trying not to remind the people of that, but you know,
adore me for the last.
Pretty much. I was just like, luckily you drink wine as if it's going out of style. I was like, I think that was four bottles. I was like, these two can hang.
Yeah, and we're here this morning.
And we're here this morning. This is not coffee in our cups, my friends, or whatnot here. But, you know, real quick, I just wanted to tap your brain on this because, you know, Anna and I, and apologies that Anna couldn't be here for the podcast. We got a little sick kid this morning. But we run a business together. And we're same brand, funneling into the same stuff and whatnot. And that presents its own challenges. But you and your husband are two independent entrepreneurs. So how do you guys just find harmony with each other out there? For anyone that's just like, my husband and I are trying to build our own things. We're not a united brand, but we're a united family. And we're united in our visions together. How do you guys do it? Just any quick little tips to share?
Yeah, well, what's cool about it is that he's really marketing minded. He's a real estate agent. So he's already on social really, really well all the time. He's great on camera. He's super personable. But what's cool is I get to help him in like the strategy piece of how his marketing needs to work. So that's really helpful. I get to go and film with him and do all of that fun stuff and make sure that he's taking his business as like a traditional real estate agent and thinking more like entrepreneurial wise, trying to create something bigger than just having to go show homes and sell homes, you know? So I think that melding is kind of cool. And then on the flip side of it, like he can bring so many different thoughts and ideas to my business because he's a consumer of what I created, you know? So we're able to kind of spitball off of each other and with respect, and sometimes, you know, with egos aside, because sometimes with your spouse, it's tough to hear when you're doing something that maybe isn't like the coolest ever, but you thought it was the coolest ever. So,
oh God, Anna shoots down all my ideas.
Oh, egos. But yeah, it's one of those things where like we have to work well together because we're both really, really passionate about what we do. Mm-hmm. We're super busy. One thing that, you know, is tough with scaling, getting bigger, especially like in his business, is making time, like making sure you make time that's not just talking about business stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're both so excited about what we do that it's like, it's all we talk about. And ultimately at some point we're like, we got to
Who brought that up?
Well, I think it's been like an ebb and flow. Like initially I was the one who was like head down building a new business and whatever. And he was just starting his thing. So like he was like, we need Friday night every night for date night. And we're not gonna, and now like that he's like slammed all the time. I'm like, we need Friday night for date night. I don't want to hear that.
Now he's getting momentum and he's just like, so man, what can we do this? What can we do that? And you're like, oh, now you know what it feels like.
Oh, okay. Also put your phone down.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just finding balance and keeping yourself accountable for it. Like I do the Living Your Best Year Ever journal. And like one of the things that's in you have like a weekly registry of habits you want to form to achieve the goals that you have for the quarter, the year, whatever. And one of them that's one of my top priorities is like family and like and personal, because if not for that, then what am I doing this all for?
Right.
You know? So one of the things that's in my weekly rhythm registry is plan date night and have date night. So I have 2 points on it. We just had date night on there, but then they were like unintentional. We're like, let's go get tacos, I guess. And now it's like, we have a planning one. So we actually have something that we're getting dressed for, looking forward to.
Yep.
And then we like actually do a real life date night, not like a half-ass date night. So.
No, man, we had that. Then Luca came. We literally used to always have a date night, and it always used to be a new restaurant, a new something, because that's novelty. I believe in like, how can you create novelty in your life to keep things always exciting? So going out to restaurants was always the thing, because when I was broke, the only thing I cared about one day, one of my dreams was just like, I want to be able to walk into any restaurant and I want to be able to look at the wine list and get whatever I want and get whatever meals I want. That was my biggest dream back when I was freaking broke. So when I finally started making money, I'm like, that's what we're going to always do, a new date night, whatnot. Then comes Luca.
Yep.
Where you're like,
that'll do it.
There ain't no like, hold on, let's see, because now you're organizing the sitter, you're organizing this, that, but we try to bring that back as much as possible, because there's a big difference between, hey, are we going to try to go out tonight? Or, hey, I made reservations at 7, be ready at this time, let's go, we're going to do this, etc. Because it is that really intentionality that freaking makes the big difference out there. So
we found ourselves just being like, I'm too tired, because we didn't make a plan of anything. There wasn't a reservation. And then we just wouldn't go because we were exhausted. And for some reason, now that there's a plan, we're not as exhausted. It's weird. It's the psychology behind it. So, I mean, it made such a difference when we really made it super intentional, because otherwise it just wasn't going to happen. And it wasn't going to be like, it wasn't full of anything substantial. It was just like to do it just because we said we were going to do it. And now
that's
it's
like
we
that's
were
like
excited.
trying to go into business just to try to do it. You got to go in with the intention.
Yeah.
The literally like, there is a declaration that I'm doing this, or it ain't gonna freaking happen in your life.
And it's like, if I'm gonna do that with my business, why wouldn't I do that with my relationship with my family?
That's right.
Like one thing I put in there too is spending time with my niece. Like last year it was on my it was in my journal, and I didn't do it the way that I knew that I wanted to. And I was pissed at myself when I went and did my year in review, and I saw that it was only a handful of times and not every week like I wanted to. And I was like, I don't want this little girl to grow up and not know who I am.
Nice.
So now like on there every Friday, it's blocked off on my calendar, 9 to noon. Me and Adley have date day, and that's it.
That's awesome.
Because I'm intentional about all these other things. And my only reason I really wanted to be an entrepreneur was to have freedom to do the things that mattered. And for me, families, I'm Italian too. Like family is so important.
I saw the way you drink wine. I know you're Italian. I'm clear. I'm
The true blood came
clear that you are Italian.
But it's like, it's so important. And it's like, if I'm
Yeah.
not going to be as intentional about the things that I started this whole journey in for, then what am I doing?
That's right.
So
That's right. I mean, it was the same thing about like, I'm like, the reason I made my pivot from gym owner to as I'm like, if I continue this path, there's two things I'm very clear about. I'll be a shitty dad and I'll be a shitty spouse because I just won't be there.
right.
I'll just never see my kids. I'll never really be there to raise them. My wife will be thrust with everything. We see each other as passing ships in the night. That it was just that intention to be like, no more.
Yeah.
This isn't the way I'm gonna live or have my life at the end of the day be there. And I think that if you're listening, even just what I hear some of the things that you're saying, you're like, I do a year in review. I do setting visions with my husband. I know your husband's saying we do once a month. I think you guys get together and do your visions for the month.
Yeah.
I mean, just that intentionality of how you live life will take you from ordinary to extraordinary out there. So how can our guests find you, check out what you're doing, this, that? I want to make sure they can dial in, especially to what you're doing with Repurpose House.
Yeah. So, I mean, me personally on social media, I'm Shaina Weisinger everywhere. I mean, I'm the only one with that name, so you can find me with that handle. Repurpose House is going to be Repurpose House Co. on all the social channels, but repurposehouse.com is where you're going to find a ton of like valuable content. So all the blog posts that are videos of me like dialing down cool things. Yep. Yeah. We're going to have like, where the courses land there also. We have a video podcast. It's all about content and how to crush your content. That season just wrapped, but there's so many cool people. Like we talked to the director of marketing for GoDaddy, like HubSpot. We had some really amazing guests talking about like their secrets and strategies.
Right on.
So there's tons of really great resources to learn on that site. Even if, Repurpose House isn't right for you, I at least want you to go and get information and figure out how to make your content strategy better.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that any links or anything like that, we'll post
sure.
in the show notes to get that out there. I just want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm going to do a little training with you now to share with our Visionary Planner students. So hopefully you guys got a shit ton of value out of this episode. And I would just have you thinking about the clues. I would go back and listen to it and be like, what was Shaina dropping that are like the clues and the threads about living this extraordinary life? Because you don't have to opt in anymore to the ordinary. You heard she's just like, I do not want to live this way anymore. She set an intention. It was just like, I don't like how I feel getting fired. I don't like having that in my life. And she went out and made intentions clear. She was willing to pivot. She was willing to be imperfect. And she was willing to follow a freaking dream, just like you can. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
What's up, Visionary? Did you like this episode? Well, if you're looking to bring your vision to life and into the world, go to thevisionaryplanner.com/podcast to get access to our Visionary Toolbox. It's filled with free tools and trainings from us and all of our amazing guests. Until next time, keep rising up, Visionary.